Hello and welcome to Maltbox, the non-chill filtered whisky blog. I'm Andy and this is Whisky Review 101. What I have for you today is a Highland single malt Scotch whisky from a distillery from one of the prettiest areas of Scotland. And it comes in the form of this. The Loch Lomond 12-year-old. There is the bottle. Very fetching green packaging. Bottled at 46%. It is non-chill filtered, but it does have added colouring. So, Loch Lomond. Oh, great noise that. Is there a better noise in the world than that? Loch Lomond. It's a bit of a weird distillery, to be honest, and I don't mean that in a nasty way. I think if I had to give it an analogy, it would have to be Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. It is the Willy Wonka's chocolate factory of distilleries, and the reason I say that is because there is that much stuff going on there that it's hard to keep up with. It's just a whisky creator's dream, so to speak. For example, alright, they have 3 different still types in situ. Usually, in a normal distillery, you would find a singular set of stills, or maybe two to 4 stills, something like that. And generally speaking, they are just pot stills. Swan neck pot stills. Now, Loch Lomond has column stills because they also make grain whisky in-house as well as malt whisky. They also have Lomond stills. They also have swan neck stills. 3 different types of stills on one site, right? They have their own cooperage on site as well, so they can actually make their own barrels, which is nowadays pretty unheard of. It's quite difficult for distilleries to do that nowadays. Back in the day, distilleries tended to have those things, but nowadays it's not so cost effective. Loch Lomond, on the other hand, have kept that going. They have this big area of their business dedicated to making casks for the Loch Lomond distillery, and I believe Glen Scotia as well. So, in addition to that, so I've already said this is the Loch Lomond 12-year-old, right? Loch Lomond doesn't just have one style of whisky or one brand, okay? So this is kind of their flagship standard expression, shall we say. Their standard expression is the Loch Lomond branded expression. In addition to Loch Lomond, they also produce, as I've said before, Loch Lomond grain under Loch Lomond, which also goes into their own in-house blends, and is sometimes bottled as a single grain, and is also sometimes used in blends for supermarkets and things like that, and other people's blends. They also make Inchmurrin, which is a different spirit style again, so that's a malt whisky, which is sort of lighter, a bit sweeter, a bit fruity. They also make another spirit, which is bottled again under a different branding, a different name, Inchmowen, which is heavily peated. They then have Croft and Gare, which is again heavily peated spirit, and about another 5 more or 6 more on top of that. They are producing so many different varieties of whisky to meet their demand of different brands, different blends, etc, etc. They sell a lot of their whisky to, or swap whisky with other distilleries for them to fulfill their blending operations and things like that. It's a lot going on, man. That's what I'm saying. The best analogy I can think of is Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. The only thing that's missing is the Oompa Loompas. They could be in the cooperage. I don't know. I've not been in there myself. Could be a whisky river and a whisky waterfall. Someone please tell me if there is. So, the Loch Lomond 12-year-old. Again, 46%. Non-chill filtered, but does have added colouring. This is a lightly peated expression, and it's been created by using both peated and unpeated barley. It has been matured in 3 different cask types, and they are first fill ex-bourbon, refill bourbon, and recharred casks as well. God, after all that talking, I'm going to need a drink at this rate, aren't I? God. Right, on the nose. It's quite interesting. It's clean, but it's also got quite some nice, rich, deep, spicy notes. It's vanilla-y. You've got some sort of like nice green fruits, perhaps like pears, something like that. And there is a slight whiff of smoke, but it's not actually smoky, if that makes sense. It's kind of just adding another nice bit of richness and backbone to that initial nosing. You've got pastries in there, apple as well, I think. Digestive biscuits. It is initially quite prickly, but then that spice comes in. It's a really very pleasant nose indeed. So this retails around 35 quid. I actually picked this up on Amazon for £29.75 on offer a few weeks back. So you can find it cheaper than 35. There's arguably a bit of salinity in there, maybe a little bit of saltiness, and some toffee as well. On the palate, oh yeah, right. Ooh. Okay, it's interesting. It's very interesting, and it is very lovely. Charming, I think, is probably the word I'd use. Initially, you're hit with this big, spicy hit, right? It then mellows out a bit, it goes sort of like herbaceous. It then has a little wisp of smoke. You then get some nice vanilla sweetness, and then suddenly you're just hit by this lovely, crisp, green apple, like Granny Smith apple, and pears, pear drops. It's very fresh, it's quite tart. But then it comes back in again with sort of this lovely, deep, spicy, malty note. Think something like porridge, a bowl of porridge with cinnamon and honey in there as well. Because as soon as it goes into the finish, you've got this really nice sort of sweet, honeyed spiciness. And it's very warming. It's continuing to keep my throat warm for a considerable amount of time. But it's not astringent. It's a very well put together dram. And that smoke and that peat is a Highland peat. It is not an Islay peat where you've got your iodine, you've got your kind of medicinal qualities. This is very much a different beast. It's a Highland peat. It's a little bit earthier. It's a little bit sort of, again, more herbaceous. It's just there to play its part. And it actually does this dram quite a few favours because you've got that very sort of, like I said before, tart apple, very fresh, crisp, arguably some grassy notes in there as well. And then you've got that sort of deep, rich, nice little smokiness and maltiness and spices to bring it back down and give it a bit more balance. I'll be honest with you, Loch Lomond was not a distillery that I have actively bought anything from for years. When I first started getting into whiskey, about 11 years ago, 12 years ago, I had a bottle of their old own bottling expression, which was just the one with the blue label on it, blue and black label, and it was horrible. I'll be honest, it wasn't nice. And I think until the change of ownership, where they have now had a nice shift, a positive shift into both cask management, and they've kind of pushed their approach back to single malts rather than focusing on their blending operations, they've really come back into the fold with this. I mean, the presentation, the actual packaging is very, very nice. It's very appealing. It has added colour, but that is to assist sales in some sensitive markets, such as the Asian market, which in fairness, you know, it's actually not really that different here in a sense. People associate a dark whiskey with luxury. They associate that luxury with richness, they associate that richness with quality. That's not always the case, is it? Let's face it. But I can see why it's being done. And I've got to be honest, I avoided Loch Lomond after trying that original own bottling and a couple of other expressions as well from back in the day, because I was really I'll be honest, it put me off. And I was part of a video call with Michael Henry, who is Loch Lomond's master blender. And Michael sits across both the Loch Lomond Distillery and the Glen Scotia Distillery, because Glen Scotia is part of the Loch Lomond group. And he basically puts together their whiskey and gives them the final nod. And Michael was chatting to us and telling us about Loch Lomond and how he's been going about things, and there's been a real positive shift in cask management and things like that. And he said that this was his favourite expression from Loch Lomond. So I thought, do you know what? I'll give it a go. It just so happens it was on offer at the time. And nowadays, let's face it, you're picking up a 12-year-old single malt. It's bottled at 46%. It is non-chill filtered. Alright, it's got colouring added, but it was under 30 quid. It's 2020. That is value for you. That is really good value, I'll be honest with you. And the flavours, and you know, it's quite clear that it is a very good quality whiskey. Loch Lomond, I think, has been historically a bit of a jack of all trades, arguably master of none. That's just the phrase. But I think now that I've kind of got back into their range a little bit, I'm actually suitably impressed by it. It is a bit confusing how they've had all those different names like Inchmowan, Inchmurrin, Crofton Gaya, Loch Lomond, and then you've got several others as well that, to be honest with you, I had memorised before I press record, and typically I can't remember them now. But what they're actually doing going forward is they are bringing all of those other brands under the Loch Lomond banner. So rather than Loch Lomond, and then Inchmurrin or Inchmowan, like they have at the moment, it's literally just going to be like Loch Lomond heavily peated or Loch Lomond fruity, etc, etc. So that's going to be quite interesting. I think that will assist some newer whiskey drinkers, or not even new whiskey drinkers, but people that are new to Loch Lomond. That will probably assist them a little bit, because I know I was a bit daunted. Even after drinking whiskey for 12 years, I was still a little bit daunted about the variations, and because they don't just use the same still combinations and cask combinations for their heavily peated runs, they do mix it up a bit. So it does get very, very confusing. But in fairness to it, this is a lovely little drop. It is something a little bit different. I've had this bottle in for just over 3 weeks. Alright, and that's what I've done to it. That's what's left. And you might think, yeah, well, do you know what? I could probably polish that off in 2 weeks or a week. I mean, yeah, I probably could if I wanted to, but I've got a lot of other bottles and a lot of other reviews to do, so I've been spreading my time. So to say that I've been putting this in there as well, and I've made that much of a dent in it, it's a very approachable, easy drinking, but still quite complex malt. It has quite a lot to offer. It's got a bit of a mix of styles in a sense that it has some qualities that I like about some lowland whiskies, so that grassy, light element. You've then got that nice sort of like Highland peat and that spice and richness. And arguably you've got a couple of Speyside qualities in there as well, with some of those fruity notes. So for me, it's a winner. This is kind of the part where I said, would I recommend you buy a bottle? I mean, personally, I have, as you can see, and I've also bought a second bottle since then, again on offer on Amazon, 30 quid. I'm not a big fan of Jeff Bezos and the way that he treats his employees, but since we're in lockdown, I can't really go out that much, needs must. And yeah, do you know what? I do not regret buying this, or buying the second bottle. I'm really looking forward to popping the second one. This is firmly something that if you've not tried it, give it a go. You'll be pleasantly surprised. And it will just be one of those drams that you can quite easily sit there and just have a few of them. It's got a nice level of complexity about it. It's clearly good quality spirit, and I think that's the key there. The spirit itself is really good quality. And that's pretty much it, guys. A nice little drop, really is very engaging, good quality, affordable, pretty well presented. What more could you want? Thanks very much for watching. See you soon.